In April 1968, Carlos went to see Don Juan again. He had not visited for 2 years, during which time his book had been published. My car broke down in the outskirts of a city, and I had to stay in town for 3 days while it was being repaired. There was a motel across the street, but the outskirts of towns are always depressing for me, so I took lodgings in a modern 8-story hotel in the centre of town. The bellboy told me that the hotel had a restaurant, and when I came down to eat, I found there were tables out on the sidewalk. It was a rather handsome arrangement, set on the street corner under some low brick arches of modern lines. It was cool outside and there were empty tables, yet I preferred to sit in the stuffy indoors. I had noticed upon entering that a group of shoeshine boys were sitting on the curb in front of the restaurant, and I was certain that they would have hounded me had I taken one of the outside tables. From where I was seated, I could see a group of boys through the glass window. A couple of young men took a table, and the boys flocked round them, asking to shine their shoes. The young men refused, and I was amazed to see that the boys did not insist and went back to sit on the curb. After a while, 3 men in business suits got up, and the boys ran to their table and began eating the leftovers. In a matter of seconds, the plates were clean. The same thing happened with leftovers on all the other tables. I noticed that the children were quite orderly. If they spilt water, they sponged it up with their own shoeshine cloths. I also noticed the thoroughness of their scavenging procedures. They even ate the ice cubes left in the glasses of water, and the lemon slices from the tea, peel and all. There was absolutely nothing they wasted. In the course of time that I stayed at the hotel, I found that there was an agreement between the children and the manager of the restaurant. The boys were allowed to hang around the premises to make money from the customers, and were also allowed to eat the leftovers, provided that they did not harass anybody and did not break anything. There were 11 in all, ranging in age from 5 to 12. The oldest, however, was kept at a distance from the rest of the group. They deliberately ostracized him, taunting him with a sing-song that he had pubic hair and was too old to be among them. After 3 days of watching them go like vultures, after the most meagre of leftovers, I became truly despondent, and left that city feeling there was no hope for these children, whose world was already moulded by their day-to-day struggle for crumbs. "Do you feel sorry for them?" Don Juan exclaimed in a questioning tone. "I certainly do," I said, "because I'm concerned with the well-being of my fellow men. Those are children, and their world is ugly and cheap." Wait, how can you say their world is ugly and cheap?" Don Juan said, mocking my statement. "You think you're better off, don't you?" I said I did. He asked me why, and I told him that in comparison to those children's world, mine was infinitely more varied and rich in experiences and in opportunities for personal satisfaction and development. Don Juan's laughter was friendly and genuine. He said that I was not careful with what I was saying, that I had no way of knowing about the richness and the opportunities in the world of those children. I thought Don Juan was being stubborn. I really thought he was taking the opposite view just to annoy me. I sincerely believed those children did not have the slightest chance for any intellectual growth. I argued my point for a while longer, and then Don Juan asked me bluntly, "Didn't you once tell me that in your opinion man's greatest accomplishment was to become a man of knowledge?" I said that, and I repeated again that in my opinion to become a man of knowledge was one of the greatest intellectual accomplishments. "Do you think that your very rich world would ever help you become a man of knowledge?" Don Juan asked with slight sarcasm. I did not answer, and he then worded the same question in a different manner, a thing I always do to him when I think he does not understand. In other words, he said, smiling broadly, obviously aware that I was cognizant of his reply, can your freedom and opportunities help you to become a man of knowledge? No, I said emphatically. Then how could you feel sorry for those children? He said seriously. Any of them could become a man of knowledge. All the men of knowledge I know were kids, like those you saw eating leftovers and licking the tables. Don Juan's argument gave me an uncomfortable sensation. I had not felt sorry for those underprivileged children because they did not have enough to eat, but because in my terms their world had already condemned them to be intellectually inadequate. And yet in Don Juan's terms, any of them could achieve what I believe to be the epitome of man's intellectual accomplishment, the goal of becoming a man of knowledge. My reason for pitying them was incongruous. Don Juan had nailed me neatly. Some years later, I happened myself to be in Sao Paulo on an expedition. My spirited young Brazilian companions, who had concluded a successful business venture, decided to have a slap-up lunch and sat at a table on the pavement. A gang of street children was sitting nearby on the curb, happily chattering among themselves. My friends ordered far more than we needed, and when I expressed a reservation, they nodded towards the boys, who smiled gleefully back. Immediately, I understood, and there was a warm glow of masculine communion between us all, the street boys and ourselves. We were all in it together and looking after each other. Social services has a lot to learn.